Morning, good morning, good morning. What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday, fun day. Um, had a great live yesterday. Decided to go live today again. I had a topic in mind that I wanted to tackle. Actually, what I do here as a watch content creator is give you guys the experiences that I go through and try to get you guys to also learn from my mistakes. And that's going to be the topic of discussion today. So, let me give you guys the synopsis. So, this year, I decided to put an Islander, an ISL 245, Miyota 9075, True Traveler GMT in my collection. Now, I was happy with the design language. I did wanted to put my own spin on it. I have modified a lot of watches in the past before. Therefore, I was very confident in making the one change that I wanted to make to the watch. And that was with the bezel and the bezel insert. Um, I eventually got to the place where the bezel itself wasn't something so much that I needed to change, but the insert, I kind of wanted to make it different colorway, if you will, right? So it's a GMT bezel. Again, it's a perfect bezel for the watch. I really don't feel that it was absolutely necessary to change it out. It was just something that I felt comfortable or motivated to make the change in the watch, and I made a mistake. So I want to talk to you guys about it while it's still fresh. This happened yesterday. I spent hours trying to take off the bezel, so kind of have some silver lining in that, right? I have some things that are positive takeaways from it. So let me show you guys what the damage is and show you what's on wrist. So this is the ISL 245, right? So the Port Jeff from the Islander watch collection, the GMT version, true GMT, as you guys can see. And what I wanted to do originally is I love the dial on this. It's very fun. It has nice colors in the indices and on the hands and everything else. And it was the perfect watch for the 2024 takeaway that I wanted because one, I was tired of the I was tired of the NH kind of movements. I'm ready to put something else in my collection at this point because I have a whole bunch of NH movements, whether it be the day date, whether it be, the standard no date or the GMT version, which is the NH34. So I wanted Miyota or better at this point, right? I wanted something that was higher beat. This is actually my first True Traveler GMT watch, so I have a lot of fun messing around with the mechanism. Very different from the NH34. You can change the date pretty much at any time the mechanism switches over as you move the hour hand independently. So that was nice not having to worry about that mechanism messing up. If you're obviously higher on the dates, like let's say today is the 5th and the watch is on the 20, or let's do it backwards. Let's say the date is on the 2nd, right? And you have to get to the 31st. Well, you can go backwards with this watch, right? You don't have to spend time going through the full cycle forward. You can kind of go back to that 31st date. So had a lot of fun with this mechanism as it stands, right? And I'm really, really happy with this piece in my collection. And again, the only thing I wanted to change was the bezel insert. What I wanted to do, what my plan was to change this entirely, the metal as well, and swap it to a white GMT bezel, right? So I think white on white would have been really cool for this watch. I was a little design fatigued for the black bezel. Again, there's nothing wrong with this Oreo type of look to it. I think it still looks good as the original, but I came in very confidently thinking that I could just do this modification, no problem. I actually taped up the lugs originally, taped up my tools, and I had a go at it. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's some pretty nasty knurling on that, right? Like I did scratch it up. I actually have a tool. It's a 4-corner tool that actually pops off the bezel. And honestly, with the hand tools and with that 4-corner tool, this bezel would not come up to say. And I started off very professionally, taking my time, being patient. Like I said, I had the tape and everything else, but as you start working the corner to get that bezel up, the tape starts moving, it starts shifting, you have to retape it and everything else. So you start using more strength, you start getting a little frustrated, and lo and behold, I don't have the patience like I thought I did, and I did some pretty gnarling damage on that lug. So, listen, it is what it is. Like, I personally don't I'm not upset if I do scratches on the lugs or if I do scratches. I actually scratched the bezel insert. I scratched the lugs. I spent hours trying to get this bezel up. So good news, bad news. Bad news is that I scratched up the watch, which means that I can't do macro shots when I do the review for this watch, but it's fine. This watch wasn't sent to me to do a review. This is in my actual collection. So it is what it is. Like at that point, I'm just like, hey, it's my watch. If I don't do macro shots when I do the review for this watch, it is what it is, right? And I'll make sure to mention that also in the review for transparency or for clarification, so you guys, understand what you're looking at. But at day's end, I could not get this bezel up. So if you have an Islander and it has a bezel and a bezel insert, the good news is that that thing is on there. It will not fall off. And even the bezel insert, right? When I couldn't get the actual metal up, what I did was I was like, okay, I know this is probably not going to work, but let me remove the insert at least and then just use the bezel that's on here. Now, the bezel inserts that I bought were more to pair for the actual bezels that I purchased, right? And I knew it was kind of a fat chance. And maybe also the bezels itself that I purchased, not only the bezel, but the bezel insert, wouldn't have also fit this circumference. You do the best you can, you measure it. I get my pieces from AliExpress. It is what it is. But I failed, guys. I failed miserably. And the one thing that I tell you guys when doing your mods is to be patient with them. Don't force anything, right? Especially 100% when it comes to the movement, right? If you're doing even smaller things like changing out the date wheel color, if you're messing with those little screws and you're messing with those smaller parts, that's something that you have to take your time with. There is no such thing as forcing things. And even with exterior modifications outside of, the inside, that's to be true. If you're the type of person that you're going to hate scratches, obviously, when you're taking off the bezel, take your time. I don't have the patience. I am very patient in the very beginning, but I spent hours. By hour like 2 or 3, I kind of just was like, all right, I'm getting the damn thing off. If I scratch it, I scratch it. I personally don't mind scratches. I'm going to eventually scratch my watch anyway. Does it suck now that I purchased a brand new watch that has scratches on it now and I wasn't even able to get the bezel off? It does, especially because I wanted to do a review of the Islander watch, and obviously the macro shots are going to be messed up now because of that, and I may not be able to do macro shots now. But it's my watch. It wasn't sent to me for the review. Had it been, of course, respectfully, you can't. I don't even like to. So when I get a watch sent in to me for review, I don't even like to wear the watch like outside too much, honestly. Like if I like to take my macro shots first and then stress test the watch after. So at least I have the footage of the watch being perfect, respectful of the company, right? I didn't do that. And I knew obviously that I should have, but I didn't. So it is what it is. And I have to live with it. But again, personally, and I know this is a conversation that goes back and forth, people say that, scratches on their watches, they want to avoid, some people avoid even wearing watches in particular events, or if they know they're going to be more physical for the day, they want to stray away from it. I personally don't really get upset about scratches. Obviously, I scratch this thing like crazy. There's a lot of like crazy knurling, which is, if you see my SKX 009, it's the same thing, right? I had to remove the bezel on that. I didn't have to. I wanted to remove the bezel on that, and I had the same paired scratching. I know better. I did tape this. I got frustrated, and I forced it, and when the tape shifted, I didn't retape after a certain point. So listen, it is what it is. I'm okay with the watch having the scratches on there. And if I really wanted to, you can have those things laser treated. You could have it refinished. I know these things too. And if I really wanted to have the watch restored or be at its originality, right? It's not a $10,000 watch where you don't want to worry about doing those finishing, kind of like taking it away from its originality. So if I wanted to restore the watch back to brand new, I know that the option's always out there. I know that that value would be up to me at that point. Mega, what's going on, brother, man? Gave you the wrench. You know what I'm talking about? I have a couple of moderators that I want to also put out there. I just put like some of the names that I know, so you guys are going to see the ones that are usually tuning in with the mods. But going back to this, man, yeah, I made the mistake of just not leaving the watch the way it is. I think that In hindsight, well, listen, there's no way for me to have known that this watch was going to be so difficult to get the bezel off, right? So good news, bad news. Good news is that now I can honestly say that if you have an Islander with a bezel, it ain't falling off on its own. I don't care how hard you knock this watch, this bezel, the watch parts inside are probably going to implode before that bezel comes off. That's clutch. So, it is what it is. And I actually did scratch the bezel insert as well. So, and now this is coming from a point of view, and this is coming from somebody who's modified a lot of watches, a lot of watches. Not so many bezels, but I had several tools that I used to try to get this bezel off, none of which worked. One of the sneaky Pete things that I have is that I have very thick metal hand removers. They're very solid, and they actually double as needing to lift things up that have to have more support at the tip of the tool because they're a thicker metal, right? So when I have my tweezers, sometimes the tweezers, I like to use very fine tweezers when I'm messing with watch parts. The downside to them is that they don't have that extra resistance when it's something a little bit heavier or a little bit more resistant. Obviously, you can't use, your tweezers to lift off this bezel, right? That's not happening. So sometimes I used the regular latch kind of thing with the little tip at the end. I use the four corner tool. You kind of like screw it in, it gets closer to the bezel, it applies pressure at a slope, and then it pops up. That didn't work, and I was applying a lot of force. I didn't want to apply too much force because the crystal was sitting right there. I tried everything under the sun, and as time went on, when it got to hour 3, I let the watch have it, and it still didn't come up. My hands were bleeding. The tools weren't breaking. My hands were bleeding. My hands were hurting. I should have left well enough alone. And I learned something even as I don't know how you want to gauge me, right? I consider myself to have a little bit of experience with the watch tools and watch modifying. And I was humbled, right? That just goes to show you, even if you have experience and if you guys are going to attempt modifications to your watch, beware that if you especially don't like scratches and it's something like the bezel, or it's any part really, right? There's a chance of you scratching the watch. If you hate scratches then definitely tape it up and definitely take your time. And if you get frustrated, just stop for the day and then continue at another time. Do as I say, not as I do, because I don't do that. So like Mega said, like surgery, ish happens, and I totally wrecked the brand new watch. I'm gonna show you guys again because I showed it kind of like in the beginning. So let me get it in focus. So I scratched the bezel insert up here. I scratched the lugs up here, and then I tried another point. One of these, yeah, over here, there's also scratches as well. So, but again, like for me, I know my watches, I wear my watches, yeah, and I don't really baby them at all. Like I try to avoid dropping them. I try to avoid obviously going through a doorway where you're gonna clip the side and little things like that. But at the end of the day, it's too much anxiety for me personally to say, okay, well, I don't want to get any scratches on this watch, right? So I am sad because this is a brand new watch that I scratched. At the same time, I was knowingly going into it saying that this is a possibility. I can't get upset, and it is what it is. Now I chewed it up more than I wanted to, but you gotta take that L. You gotta be, and you also need to be humble. Now I don't want to scare anybody from attempting to do modifications, but I will say this. If that is your concern, if you have a watch that you really love and you want to put just a little bit of a spin on it, and again, this bezel was actually fairly decent, right? It's a nice bezel. It has lume on it. There was nothing wrong with it. I was just being very particular, and I felt like if I did a white ceramic with a GMT bezel on it, and I think the one I had was like lumed all the way. It was nice. It was like a white and gray. Gray for the top for the night, white on the bottom, and then it had lume on it. So it would have been sick. It would have been nice. But it didn't work out. I couldn't even get the bezel off. So what are you gonna do? Like surgery, no need to baby tool, no need to baby tool orient watches, beauty marks, bro. Exactly, yeah. War battle scars, man. War battle scars. I laugh at myself now when I look at the watch. I'm like, you're so hard-headed. You should have just left it alone, or I should have really just quit after hour 2. The moment I got frustrated, I'm like, I'm not retaping it. I'm just gonna give it more juice. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense because the harder you use your strength in a piece, the more likely it's going to scratch and the deeper that scratch going to be if you slip. So therefore, I should have saved the taping for the frustration maybe, or I should have walked away from it and or called it quits if the scratches were going to bother me that much. And the only thing that I really take away from it is that I kind of feel bad. I kind of feel like now when I do this review, I kind of took it away from you guys to be able to enjoy those super macro shots of the watch. But, again, this wasn't sent to me to do a review. I purchased this watch full price, right? I got the wind up discount rather. But, at the end of the day, it was never for me specifically to do a review on it. And it is a watch in my collection. So it is what it is. Beauty marks, Senor Santana. What's up? What's going on, Oscar? Oscar, I need to get you a mod, bro. You are one of the names that I must get a mod for. What's going on in here? Talking about the recent mistake that I made on the Islander watch, man, trying to get the bezel off. So I wasn't patient with it. The thing is on there. I can tell you that much. That's the positive thing that I could say about the Islander watch. If you got a bezel on an Islander watch, that ain't going nowhere. So silver lining, but we're talking about my mistakes with the modifications and just my insight to it. And look, I like to share these things with you guys so you guys can not just only learn from my mistakes, but see my perspective as somebody who's assembled watches from scratch, as somebody who's taken apart movements and put them back together, right? I've done full modifications from A to Z, and I still run into things like this that I've never experienced. I get humbled. It really felt like I've never done a single modification before because I couldn't get it up, and I couldn't get the bezel off. And it is what it is, you know what I mean? What's going on in here? Most of my watches are butch. If they get dinged, oh well. Exactly. I bought a handful to a meet about a year ago and poured them on the table from a bag. So you're just like, here's the watches. Like you don't let scratches phase you at all. And to a very significant. Okay, so let me ask you this, Mega. With that being said, and I kind of feel the same way too. Now, how would you have felt in my scenario with this watch as much as I scratched it? Let me show you the scratches again, just so we can get a visualization. So here is the knurling. I don't know if you can see because it's kind of shaded there, but look how much I chewed. It looks like I've been gnawing on that bad boy, right? The bezels got scratched here because I was really like, who cares if I scratch this? I'm just going to use a new one, right? Yeah, wrong. It didn't fit. Humbled. And then over here, I also tried a different point of access that didn't work. So this corner and this corner were safe, I think. Let me get my eye. No, I scratched it a little bit here. Yeah, I did a number on it, man. If you're a person that likes perfection, I definitely did a number on it. Now the bezel still works. I left this upside down in alcohol. Of course, the crown was screwed in, so nothing got inside. I was a little worried about that, but I had to leave this bezel insert overnight in order for that alcohol to work its magic. So not only is his bezel, the metal part on there, but the bezel insert, man, like I left it in there for almost 2 hours and the glue was still sticking. I had a surgical, what do you call that? A surgical blade. And I tried to get in from here just to get a little bit of a lift after it being in there for 2 hours, and it still wouldn't come out. So Mark's using some high quality parts, even down to the glue of the bezel insert. So again, I gotta give it its flowers where I can. I got a little bit of scratches on the side as well. I just did a number on it. And I laugh, I learn. I'm humbled and I want to come on here and share that knowledge. Therefore, this way, hopefully if you're attempting to do something of the sorts, maybe you rethink it, right? You're like, well, how much do I want to change this out? Or again, I don't want to scare you from attempting it, but maybe you decide to dedicate a watch specifically just for modding. And that's the best thing that you can do, in my opinion. If you want to start experimenting with modding, or even if you've been modding before, don't do it on the watches purchase. Like when I bought this Islander and the watches that are going to come after it, this is going to be a nice reminder. I got to be in love with every single part, right? And I'm not saying, again, that I'm not happy with this bezel insert color, because it's kind of cool with the black and white, like an Oreo type of feel. I'm 100% okay with not having to be able to change it out with my skill set. But the point is that moving forward, when I put a watch in my collection, I got to be in love with every single detail, and I don't want there to be any feeling of like, well, if I make this little change, for me it'll be perfect, without knowing that this can possibly happen. I think that now that I'm stepping up in movements, I'm stepping up in finishing, I'm stepping up in quality, the price tag is going up, I need to leave those watches alone, and I need to choose the watches that don't require that from me from Jump Street. I got to be in love with every single detail. So that's what I learned, and I want you guys to feed off of that. So if you are deciding to get into modifications, then buy a watch separate from that. There are loads of affordable watches, sub 100, floating around 60 to $80 that will still be an automatic movement, that will actually be more of a, what's it called, a clomage of, like, let's say the 007. That's the best kind of design for you guys to choose from when it comes to modifying. Whether you get like an actual branded one from, like, let's say Tandorio, because they have a few watches that are from the SKX lineup. You want to get something that is extremely affordable if it's your first rodeo and you're going to start, maybe you use the damn thing for practice. Like, I'm going to take off and on the bezel. I'm going to do multiple bezel swaps. I'm going to do insert swaps. I'm going to do hand changes. I'm going to do dial change, just down to all of it where you're not going to be blowing. So this was like 5 and change, right? And I threw some scratches on there and I have to live with that. And I was already okay with living with that going into it, but it would have been nice if I didn't. That's my take on it. Let me catch up to Chad. Yeah, I read that. I would have been bugged for sure. Yeah, I'm peeved. I'm not pissed. I'm peeved, Mega. I'm like, yeah, just like out of respect for my own money too, right? It's like I just bought something brand new and I tore it up. It's my toy. It's here for me to play. At the end of the day, if I decided to do modifications to it, if it decides to get beat up, like whatever, like I still enjoyed at least giving it a shot. I'm saying that today. Yesterday, I wasn't enjoying it, right? I was kind of like pissed, but I got to live with it, man. I got to live with it. But I want people to be able to take away from what they're stepping into if they are in a particular, like a similar, case. I do treat dress watches like dress watches. Tool watches, all bets are off. Why buy a Jeep and never take it off road? That's actually a good perspective for you to give me as well. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, like I have a bunch of different range of watches. I have a G-Shock that I could be in war with, right? And then I have, on the polar opposite of that, I would say the most fragile watch I have is the Swatch, right? The Moon Swatch. I know what the Moon Swatch is really going to be able to handle. Not much. So, if I wear that to the gym and one of the dumbbells falls on top of it and it explodes, can I be mad? Not really. That was the risk that I took. So that's also a good perspective to say, know the watches that are in your collection and wear them for the proper occasion. That's different from, let's say, babying every watch. And listen, if that's your thing and you want to baby a watch, I respect that. No problem, do it. I'm going to say that I kind of work against that in the sense where I feel like watches, especially ones that you decided to put in your collection, are made to be worn. There are cases and scenarios where some watches are just collections. They're just collection pieces. I'll give you an example. I have both. My recently worn, because it was Halloween, my Invicta Joker, right? I wear that crazy beast of a watch on one day a year. And I put that in my collection as a collector's edition, right? There's only 5,000 out there. I think Invicta stopped the contract with that now, so it's going to be even harder to get. But I knew going into that watch that it's going to sit in the box for most of the year. Now, I don't have 20 of those watches. That's probably the only watch that I like to wear on Halloween to celebrate it. But, the only difference of opinion that I have is when people tell me, like, I don't know if I should wear this watch that I bought because I'm so worried about scratching it and I think the watch is beautiful and perfect. Guys, buy your watches to wear for the most part, and I'm coming from a place where I have watches in my collection that do both. Again, bulk of it is on my wrist, that one watch is not. So that's my take on it. But I respect it. Listen, of course I respect it, right? Like, here's the thing, like, I'm not up here just saying I respect it to be like, in agreement with everybody. It's just a level of respect for other collectors. And I think that the biggest lost art in outside of just watch collecting is being able to have a difference of opinion, but still being able to like be at the same table, break bread, and have a respectful conversation, and still have respect for each other once you leave that table. Why can't you have a different opinion on things, and why do we have to be enemies? That's silly, right? We need to have different perspectives going into this game. Sorry, let me catch up. Space G's in the building. You should have got a tool. You did. Excellent. Oscar, I'll hook you up soon. If you're cool with being a moderator, Oscar, let me know that you're on chat. Thelonious Monk, let me know, sir, if you are also interested in being a moderator for the chat. I'm sorry I've been slacking on that, man. I haven't, honestly, I haven't been on a PC. I do everything from my phone. So that option, I believe, is only able to be produced through your PC. So Thelonious Monk is in the building. So is Space. So is Oscar. Michelle, you say, what's on your wrist? So what's on my wrist is the watch that I am talking about this whole live. That I recently tried to modify, and it is the ISL 245 Islander Port Jefferson with a 9075 True Traveler GMT movement inside. So that is what is on my wrist. That is what we're talking about. That is what we're learning from. Now I paid $500+ for this watch, and I made a big boo-boo. So like now me moving forward and only putting, let's say, 1 to 3 watches tops, and now I'm going for things that are going to be more expensive, right? I'm gonna talk candidly. I'm not trying to dance around my words. I'm more interested in a higher movement now and more detail to finishing when it comes to not only the outside, because the outside of cases are getting very good, even with, mass produced watches, right? But where you get the difference is more so in the interior design of the dial, where you really get those very, very attention to details. And I'm not saying that that's not happening on the other side either, but what I am saying is that it happens more often when you're talking about a $500 to $800 range in an independent brand. You get a little bit more attention, and that's kind of like where I'm traveling to, because yes, I want Miyota movements. I want a 28-800, beat in there. I want a Swiss-made movement, right? I haven't owned a Sellita just yet. Sellita 200, 300, whatever the case may be, that's on my next site. Hopefully I'll be able to obtain that, and I'm just going to keep going. But that also means that because my collection is now at the 50 plus range, I slow that down by getting less affordable watches and start messing with things that I don't have. This is my first True Travelers GMT, and the movement works significantly different than the NH34, where, the NH34 I would say is a little bit more user friendly. It's easier. I believe, let me think here. Yeah, we still have quick adjust on the date, I believe, on that. So you do have to be aware of that timing. This, on the other hand, you change the date by changing the hour. The hour gets adjusted independently. Therefore, you can go up and down as you please, no matter what time it is. So if you're on, let's say, the 5th and you have to get to the 31st, instead of going 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, you can work backwards and get to the 31st, which is nice. And then everything else. And then you set the GMT time to your hometown, which, I'm hardly ever traveling, so I kind of set both to the hometown. But it's nice to have, it's nice to understand, it's nice to play with, and it's nice to get something different into the collection. And that's what it was really about. Let's go, chat. Thelonious Monk. Oh, let me try to catch up. Hold on. Buy what you love. Okay, you guys are saying what up to each other. Buy what you love, not what you want it to be. Yeah, exactly. And that's the lesson that I learned here. Now, let me try and put this together. So now, if I would have known I can't change this bezel out, right? For whatever reason, let's say it was married to you can't find a replacement for it, I still would have bought the watch, right? The bezel was not stopping me. The bezel was just something that, you know how it is. Well, when you modify a lot, you get very comfortable with like, oh, I want to put my little spin on it, right? And that's okay, no problem, but realize that it may not work out in your favor, and that's exactly what went on here. So it is what it is. Morning. Let me catch up on chat. Our little secret. Wait, what's going on right now? Thelonious Monk. What's on your? I gotta catch up. Yes. Best watch I found at a garage sale was a Seiko 200-meter automatic dive day date, $1, darling. That's crazy. That's a crazy deal. I've often kind of wanted to go and pull up to more garage sales and try to see if you could find, because I've heard crazy stories of people finding. Okay, so Travis actually was at Trifecta, and a gentleman walked in, right? And he had a vintage Omega, bought it for $1 at a garage sale. Kid you not. Like, just you get lucky like that sometimes, man. And I've heard crazy stories. So that's awesome that you found a 200-meter Seiko day date for $1, darling. That's great. Just bought it last weekend, Megazoid, two-tone, but what I do like from the watch is the detail, kind of Legend chocolate dial. Word. Wearing my Eco Drive now on a new strap. Yeah, man. Maybe I should have done that. Maybe I should just switch the strap and call it a day. Now I'm only joking. It is what it is. Uh-oh. It looks like my man Space already had to snipe somebody. I appreciate you, bro. Oscar, why you different? You differently want automatic. I think you meant you definitely want automatic? But I do want automatic. Does it have to be automatic? No, because I was also looking at Seagull movements, the Chrono Seagull movements inside of different watch options. Obviously, Studio Underdog has his, and he utilized that. Mark has some iterations to that movement. That would have been fine because that would have still been applicable to getting away from just the NH movements, which I have plentiful of, and they're fine. They're big. They're robust movements. They're going to be a very cheap service call for me because I am familiar with just taking out the movement and swapping it out. So I stuck to that for a while, but now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I've never experienced the True Traveler GMT. I never experienced the extra smooth hands in a Swiss-made movement. I want to know how it feels to wind that watch, and I want to be able to speak experience, like from a place of experience with that. So that's what's on my crosshairs right now. I don't know particularly which watch, but I do know that I'm going to be checking on that, right? So if I check on a watch and I just so happen to not know what movement is it, and I see it's an NH35, there's a good chance that it might not go for it unless it really has an interior design that I'm looking for and that I need. So that's where I'm at. That's why I say 2 to 3 watches a year. They're not all going to be like Swiss-made movement watches. They may be like, oh, that NH35 or NH34 really excited me, so I put that. And then I also have a movement that I didn't have before in the collection, or whatever complication or something like that may be. It's a secret sneak peek on Watch Crunch Thursday. Fire. Okay, what's the issue? So the watch is for your use, not for investment. Yes. I want to keep trolling to a minimum. Yeah, no, I appreciate you, bro. That's what I mean. Look, listen, the trolling, I got really thick skin, I think. I mean, I haven't gotten hammered, to be honest with you, but I don't care. Like, if you come in here to troll, okay, it's not going to affect me. I usually just skip over it or laugh at it, but as I get more engagement and as you guys want to see what each other is saying in the chat, we kind of don't want to have to filter through that. So that's why I started giving you guys some mods. You guys have been with me from day one, so I know you're going to be, on here the most, and you're going to be snipers, and I appreciate that. Guys, be careful. I got snipers now. It is what it is. We want to keep chilling to a minimum. I read that. Oscar, you put up a link. I will check that out. What does that say? First class watches. Oh, excuse me. Agree, Michelle, but it all depends. Also at a garage sale, 14 karat gold Elgin ladies watch for $1. That's crazy. Oscar is my #1 citizen. Garage finds can be amazing. Yeah, I wish I could find like some super big garage sales, or like if I could find like a garage sale that like specifically states that they have a lot of watches, I would be interested to like fish through that and everything else. That'd be cool. I've never picked one up from a garage sale, so I hear like crazy stories. And listen, if you go there, you can't expect it. It doesn't mean like, oh, 100%, but you have the chance, Francis Duke, okay, you guys are talking, well, this watch with a great history. My bad, bro. I thought we were sharing watch stories. Yeah, man, share your watch stories in chat, man. That's what it's all about. And that's why I wanted to come on here and give you guys game. I just experienced what I experienced with it. Still love the watch. Threw on a couple different straps with it. Eventually, we're gonna get a review video for it. I've got a couple of watches actually lined up. Spinnaker's another one. That was a new watch for this year. I want to do my review for the Spinnaker Flus that I got. We're going to do this island watch. I've got a couple of collabs in the mix right now, in transit. Noctua watches. I'm waiting on a couple of things from them so I can give a full scope of a review. Brand new micro brand to hit the scene, so I'm super excited to showcase that watch for sure. Actually, if you go to Noctua Watches channel, he actually did a quick overview of all the options that he's offering right now, including a full lume dial, which is fantastical. So I think it's worth seeing that. And I love presenting brand new micro brands. And especially, you know, I know the owner for quite some time now, so that's going to be really exciting for me to do. I just put that Sesame video out there. I've done quite a few of those, so I'm looking for some new names now, even though I have a fantastic relationship with them, and or it may continue if they bring out some new watches. I don't know. But what I do know in 2025 is that the focus is going to be putting together a panel, not me, but just being part of, and also including more independent brands and getting a lot of more relationships, especially the ones that I saw. Listen, all of the independent brands that showed up to the New York Wind-Up Fair has my attention a little bit more. Why? Because they made the trip and they made the effort, and they deserve that first lick at the spotlight, if you will. Now, am I going to cover every single one eventually? Probably not. That's a combination of things, right? It's a combination of if they want to work with me, one, and number two, you know, if it really excites me too. Like, you know, I just recently watched a video. It's like, you know, when you're watching new creators, you kind of just are watching videos that are just stuff thrown up against the wall because you're kind of desperate for relationships. Part of that is very true because when you're starting off, you have no relationships and you're contacting a lot of people. Now, as you grow and you grow your following in your community, they reach out to you, right? So now you kind of could fish through it. That being said, I can kind of zero in on the focus of what I really want to be, which is independent brands. I have a lot of interest in growing my knowledge and learning more about them individually. And that's something that I'm going to feature. I'm not going to ever step away from affordable brands. And it's not like it's affordable brands and then independent brands, right? Because there's a lot of independent brands that have affordable watches, right? They're in that category. They're not the only option. And when we come down to a lower number, chances are it's a more mass-produced watch, you know, also known as a Chinese brand, because they can afford to buy thousands and thousands and thousands of cases and parts where they're giving you that price, you know, because of that. So, but again, you know, depending on what affordability means to you, there are watches that are independent brands within the $200 to $300 range. Not all, some. Can you get mechanical out of that? Not always. There are some. But that's something that I really am very interested to also unpack and be able to say, okay, cool. So because that's the most exciting conversation that I can have. If somebody's like, yo, I just learned about independent brands, man, I heard that there's a show, the show is crazy and stuff like that. I can relate and get fired up because when I first, last year, went to my first wind up and I didn't even know what independent brand really meant before that, and or I didn't know these kind of events even took place. So when I did, it was kind of like a gem. It was like, whoa, this is a whole nother world and this is a whole nother thing, and what is it? So, you know, if I'm having a conversation with somebody, I'd love to be able to direct them very, very knowledgeably which direction on which price range and what can you expect from that. In my own opinion, of course, always do your own research. All right, let me go back. Sorry that you were trolling. Garage sale, sorry. Alpine, that watch, great history. Why would I troll? My bad, bro. He just made a mistake, man. He just made a mistake. Let's let each other off the hook. Thought we were sharing watch stories, clock, pocket watches. Clocks and pocket watches. I want to try an estate sale. Yes. Hang on, just catching up. Make sure nothing was directly for me. Yes, the bank calls me for money. Wow. Like, yeah, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell moving forward, guys. I really wanted to just share that insight as I always do. I'm learning still as I grow as a collector, and I don't pretend for a minute to know it all. There are some things and there's some mistakes I'm still gonna make. I'm gonna live with this one. I'm gonna be okay. You know, I'm not gonna cry myself to sleep. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it. But I wanted to share that with you guys and my thought process moving forward. If I'm spending X amount of money, I really, and this is almost like common sense, but apparently it wasn't in this part. If you're spending X amount of money, you should love almost every. It's never going to be the perfect watch, but I feel like it should never be at a point where you feel like you must change it. I think at a certain point, live your life. If you want to buy $2,000 watches that you want to start messing with, do your thing, boo boo. I'm not gonna be. I'm just saying. For me, that ain't gonna work. So I'm gonna leave well enough alone. I'm gonna make sure that I really want to add it to my collection, or I'm just going to go back to the more affordable range to mess around with parts too. Yeah, I got also. Now that I'm talking out loud, yeah, another collaboration with Namoki. I got a couple things lined up. I'm gonna close out strong, pretty much the way I've been doing my videos thus far. Some people have been requesting for me to do more of the car videos, man. They want me to go back from the origins. And I thought that that was like, uh, cool, because it's gonna get wintertime, so it's gonna be a lot easier for me to be in a temperature controlled environment in that case, because I don't have much room in the apartment to set up a whole type of thing. So I rather come out into the environment and shoot. That being said, I've had a couple of requests of people saying, "Hey, do some footage from inside the car." Like I was like, "Really? All right, I could do that," and that's perfect timing. But closing out the year, pretty much following suit from what you guys have seen. I'm gonna come on here and do as many lives as I can. 2025, I told you guys what my focus will be. Um, and that's just how it's going to be moving forward. It's going to continue to include all the different categories, whether it be watch modding videos, reviews on watches, watch accessories, of course. I'm trying to. The only thing I might have to figure out is getting some brand owners and doing lives with them. That's a little tough. This is a lot easier because you have to line up a schedule, obviously. And if I'm already committing to doing twice a month on a panel, I got to balance the scale at the end of the day. So I would love to continue to get brand owners on here to just talk about their brand history and talk about their watches. But time is starting to get limited, and I might have to fall back on just focusing on all the other stuff and then just doing these lives when the timing is just good for me, because I could just jump on here, boom, press live. My phone's always on me. It's a lot easier. All right, let me see what's in chat. We're going to be on here for only about 5-10 more minutes. If you guys have any other questions regarding watch modding specifically, or any questions about the channel direction, I pretty much covered that. And I think I'm done this year with, I think these are my last watches that I'm going to purchase for this year. I'm already trying to just set the stage for next year and taking I'm probably going to take the full year to really decide what I'm going to put on my collection at the end of the year, which is in pretty much this time, the October. I'm looking at wind up to make my purchases moving forward. Islander was a nice investment to that, because if you guys don't know, he gives you $50 for bringing the Islander to the show. If you're going to reinvest in one of his watches, he gives you an additional discount. So that's what I took away from 2024's wind up fair, and it was an Islander. That was my choice. Everything just lined up nicely to fit that kind of space in my collection. Had I just left it alone, nah, it's all right. I'm peeved. I'm not pissed. I'm peeved. What are you gonna do? Again, if you guys, I don't want people to be afraid to scratch their watches. Live your life. You're gonna go about it how you want to. But keep in mind, yes, there's a cost. There's always a cost. But you can restore a watch, even if it's like one of the scratches that you've seen on it that you really think like there's no way. Like, you guys would be surprised the stuff that they can do with restoring scratches. And I know that if I really wanted to, I'm probably not, because I learned something yesterday, and that was leave well enough alone, especially when you're going to this level of category. So we're gonna leave those scars up there to remind myself, and I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna add to the war battle scars, which I kind of love, man. A watch kind of looks rugged, with this. It's like, yeah, I wore this. I've been through some stuff with this watch. It's been through stuff with me. I've been through stuff with it. And you kind of remember like the big scratches. If you guys are like okay with that type of thing, you know what I'm talking about. You're like, yeah, this is when I jumped off the diving board and just nicked the corner of the pool and I just missed my head. That scratch is never coming out because I remember how lucky I was. Something like that. You know what I mean? It may not be as significant of a story, but you know what I'm talking about. Watchers, I would never do that. Messing with a 2K watch. Yeah, me neither, Oscar. That's listen, again, I'll never tell somebody how to collect and how to do their thing. But a 2G watch where I'm like, all right, I gotta change. No, I don't. You know what I mean? What I will do moving forward is if I really wanted to get this watch with the white bezel, I should have, moving forward, hindsight, contacted Mark and said, hey, do you have a white GMT bezel, ceramic, whatever, that you can have put on there for me? I'll pay a little extra, whatever it costs, da 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 da. You can do that, right? Because at that point, they're obviously going to put it on there and not have the scratches and everything else. So that's another option. If you're saying, Skylar, I will never get into modding, it would be kind of cool to change things if I really wanted to. But especially in independent brands, your likelihood of being able to do that is very high. Imagine going into Rolex and be like, yeah, I don't like that bezel. Can we switch? They were like, sir, I'm not even going to give you a Rolex. You got to get on the list. You talk about removing the bezel? You know what I mean? So that's the nice thing about independent brands. You're most of the time at the show talking to the owner to his face, and or they're very accessible through email, right? I've contacted Islander Watches and I got Mark first. He put me on to Ryan once he secured, you know, the conversation to a certain point, and both were phenomenal customer service. Am I saying that you're not getting good customer service outside of that? No. What I am saying is that who is more likely to change the bezel out for you on a 2K watch? Probably a micro brand, right? And obviously you're not providing them a bezel and saying, I want this, but maybe you like that bezel on that model, but you want it for that watch and it fits. And they say, yeah, you know what? We could do that for you. No problem. We'll charge X, Y, and Z. That's another way around it. Other than that, I would move on and wait till you find something that you really want to invest in your happiness for the $2,000. I'm saying that very clearly because watches are, in my opinion, not investments, at least not to the level of what I pay for watches and or what they go on to value. But, you know, it may be worth it in that sense, if you will. Hold on. Let me catch up. Oh, man. Noctua. Yeah, being called common sense. Common sense is learned. Yeah, to a certain degree. How many times do we say common sense is common, right? LOL, I would never do that. I read that. Can you tell us more about the swollen gum and gut situation? That's that's a Chosky. Is that a ceramic watch? What's company made? Is that a ceramic watch? What company made your watch? This is the watch that I was just wearing is the Islander. Is this a ceramic bezel? I don't. It it may be. It's the ISL 245. Honestly, I don't even know if this is a ceramic bezel. To be honest with you, I don't think I cared as much to dive into because again, I was planning to change it out. The bezel on here, I'm not entirely sure. It might be. Check it out on the Islander website. Skylar, how do you feel about the Bel Canto Classic? Personally, I love it. I think that the Bel Canto Classic looks phenomenal. I mean, it's just a work of art. Now, the only thing that I would say is that I kind of liked having a loom for the indices. They changed it to Roman numerals. They made it easier to read. I get it. That's just my personal opinion. I would have liked to have, imagine if it was something crazy, like if they just did a cutout of the Roman numerals and left loom inside of that or something like that. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but I think that and I haven't really looked at it in excruciating detail. I've actually just seen what's been going on with Watch Chris. He's been posting about that. But I say that, but I actually do think that the change or the iteration is very nice altogether regardless. So I love that kind of like style into the dial, the details into the dial. Like it's getting better and better, man. Maybe it's better that I wait longer just to see a couple of options, you know what I mean? Replacement parts. Oh boy, Trollskis. Monk, can you give my opinion on that? Monk, can I give you my opinion on that? I like to enjoy a clean dial. Yeah, listen, it's not gonna work for everybody. If you prefer the first iteration and you think that that's cleaner and not too busy, that I get that, man. Like that is going to intrigue people who like a lot more detail into their dial for sure. But if you like something more, you know, clean, laid back, easy to read, or easier to gaze upon, then I get that as well. Not a lot of things. Okay, got more trolls. Yo, you guys with the screwdrivers, man, start sniping. Start snipe skis. At Oscar, OG. Everybody, watch mining is like growing up in life. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Take your hits along the way and learn from them to grow further. Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I come in here and I share every excruciating thing that I learn about watch modding. Hopefully it helps somebody, man. Hopefully it either encourages or they're looking out for something along the way. Watches are just one of the passions in life. Yes, that is true. That is not the only passion. Trap Vision 3D, yo, Trap is on the boat. Therefore, I am going to move aside from the GOAT. I'm sure he wants to come up on live. If you guys don't know, Trap Vision 3D is on a cruise. It is a watch. I think it's like partially a watch cruise. He's giving you a lot of watch content. You know what I mean? I don't think that the cruise is specifically watch based, but there is a large portion of watch collectors on there. He's already put something out yesterday. I'm sure today's going to be even more exciting. I know he's got the Wi-Fi all clicked up. So if you guys are going to move from this segment, because I'm signing off, head over to Trap Vision 3D. He's doing, I'm pretty sure, a live, or he's going to release something very soon in that regard. Vincent H, what's going on, brother, man? Thelonious Trap Vision 3D. Okay, hello, brother from India. What's going on? India's in the building. I appreciate you. Hi, Skylar. What's going on, Vincent H? Thelonious Monks. That's pretty much what I had, guys. I'm gonna wrap things up here. I think we're coming upon the hour. I appreciate you guys. That was a nice conversation to talk about a little bit of the modifications. I've ran into a ton of watch collectors. Absolutely, bro. I'm pretty sure you're going to have a lot of good coverage and good conversation with a lot of different collectors that are on there. So very interested to see the next, I forget how long you said. I think you said 8 days on that cruise, something like that. So a lot of content to come. I'm excited to see everything that's going to be put out there. Thanks, Skylar. Always great. Nah, man, thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. I got to get you guys, a couple of more of you guys, some mods so we can control the climate. Now that we're getting more chat, we want to clean that up. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I have for today. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and please don't forget, it all started with a watch, and in this case, a modified scratch watch from your boy. What are you gonna do? No matter where your watch collection journey takes you, no matter how you decide to collect, you guys are all welcome on this channel and in this community, as you should be. I appreciate you guys spending your most valuable resource in your life, which is time, and I'll see you guys in the next one.